I don't even really need to talk about the game because we saw what happened. It's fine. It is what it is. But I'm more curious about just like as we move forward, because when JP went around and asked us like what word would you use to describe, he said magical. And I thought there was some magical elements, but to me magical connotates you win a championship. So for me it was more like super exciting. But then I could also put a negative connotation on it too. Maybe fluky. You will win some of those games down the stretch that you might not win next year. So whatever. It's a good team, and they got a great quarterback. It's a good foundation. Right. What I'm interested in is though what really I thought made this team special was the blend of veterans and young players. And those veterans though, like Bobby Wagner clearly was a massive contributor, but he also clearly has limitations. Can they afford to bring him back? I think locker room wise, absolutely, and even certainly he makes plays. But I want more sideline to sideline, and then like a guy like Ertz, he looked rejuvenated yesterday, but by and large he would catch it and fall down. I mean, like those two guys in particular? We know the back of the roster guys will come and go, but what about those big name guys? What do they do with them?
And I think that's a good question too, because I wondered that too, and. Wagner is not what he was. He was still a good linebacker.
For
and
sure.
His impact was tremendous.
For sure.
The question is, as you proceed, can he do that again? And that's what people asked of him last year. Mm-hmm. And he's not a guy like some of these guys you don't put limitations on. So I think the one thing that I think that helps them with him is, I'm curious, like what I would want to know from them too is the plans for a guy like Jordan McGee, because he has some of that. Mm-hmm. And, with another year with him help. And, so that, I think that's because I think you're right. Like, I think if you got another guy there can be more dynamic, that's always going to help, right? I don't know that Jordan McGee's that guy. I just know that he's a guy they liked a lot in training camp. And I'd be curious to see, with him, if he had another year with Wagner, just how the impact on him. Mm-hmm. As far as Ertz goes, I think that what that also highlighted yesterday was the inability to get the ball outside. And, the Eagles were pretty content giving up certain things. Yeah. I do think with Ertz, the question I always have for both those guys, and I think for sure that Wagner wants to keep playing. And again, because of his importance in there, I'd have no problem bringing him back. Mm-hmm. But with Ertz, I don't know what he wants to do. He was so valuable on third and fourth down in the red zone for Jay, and that
you could clearly still play.
Yeah. I think the hard part is, I think what you need to see is more from, I think if they needed to see, I don't know if it's more development, more production, whatever, from Ben Sinnott, the rookie, to make that a decision like, okay, well, you got this guy. I don't know that they have that guy waiting in the wings. I would go out and look for another one tight end, in the draft, maybe later, just to get another guy in the fold, because, just because. But Ertz, though, the importance to Daniels was high, not just from a leadership standpoint, but from a where the guy's going to be standpoint on these clutch downs, and he came through on those downs so many times. So I think what they need to do more so than do anything with him is to find more guys on the outside who can consistently do things opposite McLaurin.
Joined by John Keim.
Or in the backfield. You need another dynamic guy on that offense, wherever it is.
Joined by John Keim, who covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. So you tweeted this yesterday at John_Keim. Lattimore needs to keep his head in the game. This team has been good at keeping composure all year. A corner who's giving up big plays can't do this. And look, Adam Peters and the staff, they knew what they were getting when they traded for Lattimore. There have been some high-profile skirmishes, especially with Mike Evans, a guy who kind of plays on the edge. You saw that manifest itself yesterday with, A.J. Brown. And look, I'm not blaming him for getting that penalty. I think they should have gotten offsetting penalties. It was weird.
Yeah, it was kind of weird,
Brown didn't get one, but what do you think behind closed doors they think of Lattimore, and what are the plans for him going forward? Is he like a long-term piece for this team?
Yeah, well, when they traded for him, it was never with just the intention of this year. Mm-hmm. It was always with the next 2 years in mind. So I think the hard part to know with him is the impact, and the keeping your cool stuff is separate from how was he physically. And I don't think he was playing. I think his hamstring was fine, but what was the impact of all that missed time and the injury on itself? Like, there were a couple hamstring injuries. And so, was he the guy that he's going to be the next 2 years? Or with an off season, you get that thing completely right. You get to camp and you're feeling different. Are we going to see a different guy? Because that's what they're going to need to see if they really want to improve this defense. So I think that's you had to always look at it with a long-term perspective, not just. I know the initial thought for everybody was, oh my gosh, they're going for it this year, but for them it was also, but he's also got 2 more years on his deal. That was the key. I don't know that they would have made it just for this year. Certainly not at that price. So I think that's how you have to look at it. But my question would be, again, what I tweeted is accurate, right? It's right. You've got to keep your cool in those spots, because the play before they were going at it too, and that was a continuation of that. And you can't at that position allow someone to get in your head. And like the thing they love that he's a strong competitor, excuse me, and he is. Like, he doesn't back down from anybody. I think that's good, but
I think he's a net liability, to be honest.
Yeah, Bickle wants to get rid of him.
I think. Listen, if it's you can't be doing that if you're giving up these big plays too. Like, that's just.
He's just so grabby as a defender. Just how he's a physical corner.
He's an $18 million cap hit next year.
Yeah. No, listen. So the question, and this is what I don't know, is how they view these last few these weeks for him yet, right? Because again, if they think, well, the hamstring is only about, it's good enough to get out there, but it's impacted his play, that's one thing. If they think, all right, there's a problem here, then that's another, because then you'd have to make a different decision. Because you can't have, if you trade him for the next couple of years, you have to have him be better than what he was against the big time guys.
Right. Just in terms of the offensive line, obviously having Cosme out hurt. But that's another unit where, they did make some additions this past season, but don't you think they're going to address that as well? Especially after watching what Philly's offensive line can do.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is, if you want the model for what you have to do, it's the team you played yesterday. Like, the areas where they need to improve, it's what the Eagles do well, And so, yes, I think if I'm pretty sure they'll be the same way. Like, that's a group you're always trying to improve, always. And so, yes, I think when they need to get more production out of the run game with their backs, and that's part of it. So I think they would look to do that for sure.